welcome to DualiTEA. I'm your host, Akasha, and I'm here with Carmen, also known as Obaina.
Mm-hmm. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. So thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
You're welcome. Huh?
It's an honor to have you here
Thank you.
and grace us with your presence and your knowledge. Thank you so much for I'm happy it aligned when it did, and I truly believe that everything that we're about to get into is just the perfect timing for us to do so, and especially with, we just came out the Aquarius full moon. You're a whole Aquarius, just keeping that energy going, So
one of the best full moons, right?
It was a really empowering one. Yeah. I have to say, I felt closure that I didn't know I needed in certain areas, even yes, externally, but also internally with myself, different areas that I really needed to make amends with myself for. And it was really, really beautiful seeing that happen, and feeling into that. I felt like I let a weight off my shoulder.
Right.
Yeah. But I was thinking to kind of get into, before we get into the topics, I sometimes I explain people and I give an intro. I just feel like, as far as homage and just you being one of my elders and a person in the community that's been so influential and helping so many people and have helped me for years. Introducing that way that I've been going to you as a spiritual counselor, or I'm not sure what you would advise. Yeah, whichever.
Someone that guides young women, everyone that comes to see me, I try to help them spiritually, but almost like a mentor, right? Like a mentor, but especially for women.
Yeah.
As a woman, who's in her 60s, I wish I had someone in my life when I was your age. When I first met you, you were 17, right?
Yeah.
Right, you were 17. So who kind of gave me some advice to prepare me for what was coming, right? Because shit comes to you. So at 17, 19, whatever, we're not really prepared what's coming. But if you have a mentor in your life that kind of guides you in the right direction and tells you, it's going to be okay, but you have to be spiritual, right? Because we are spirit. That's what we are. This is just a body. And when I cease to exist, my body will turn to dust, but my spirit will continue forever with the rest of my eguns. The eguns means, ancestors, my ancestors. There's a veil that separates me from them, and they're there, right? And I will join them one day. And so, life is about, it's not about suffering. It's about enjoying your life when you're here, because we're only here temporarily in this form, right, in this human form. And so what we really should do is enjoy our lives. But we spend so much time, combating our feelings, combating that part of us that's, stuck. Stuck on what? Well, stuck on, trying to change others to conform to what we want them to do. When in reality, we have to change ourselves, right? Change that person that wants to control others or wants to control situations, when we have to control ourselves and love ourselves. Because love starts here, within ourselves, so that we can love others, right? On the spiritual journey, I come from a family of spiritualists. My grandfather, his mother, and his sisters were all spiritualists that were people that loved Allan Kardec. They started out on that path. My great grandmother was a card reader like myself. My grandfather was a spiritualist, and his sister also. But they based their spirituality on Allan Kardec because they read that book, and so that book was essential in Puerto Rico and in many places in the Caribbean. Because that taught them how to do the Mesa Blanca. Like the Mesa Blanca is for what? Is to bring down the eguns, to bring down the spirits, so that the spirits can talk and tell you things. That's the benefit of being in a spiritualist. It's to help others with, the assistance of those spirits. And some people may, especially, other people of other faiths may look at it as, demonic, and because they judge. It's not about judging. It's about something that's real, because we live on a planet that's energy. We are energy. These spirits are energy. And we must remember that everyone comes from Africa. That is something that no one wants to even think about, because if you're a little white, you might think that that's ridiculous and preposterous, but it's not. This world was one continent at one point. It turned into 7. First fossil bone, whatever, was discovered in Africa. Those 7 continents that were broken up, people migrated to different places. They started to look like the place that they migrated to. But if you look at your DNA, you will see. And so it's very important that we remember, like, this whole evolution of this beautiful planet that we come from, and how terrible we treat it, and how it's being destroyed right in front of us, right? And so all of this, you know, to me, like, the thing that we have to remember is that we have to be kind, we have to be humble, and we have to help others. You know, it's almost like people in recovery, right? They have to learn how to love themselves, right? They have to learn how to help others. They have to believe in higher power. You have to believe in something you can't see. And that's incredibly hard for human beings to do. Why? Because they're self-centered, and they're, you know, they don't trust.
I want to be able to touch it, to feel it, to
I want to see it yesterday. Yeah. I want to see it yesterday. I don't care, you know? And so there's a lot of angry people in this world. A lot of angry people.
Hurt
people, they're violent, and it's becoming more evident as day goes, you know, as times go by. We see all this stuff, the media, everything we look at has, like, you know, it's all about what you're wearing, what you're doing. It's a trending, like that trending thing that they talk about. And so nobody is, like, teaching you kindness. Nobody is teaching you humility. No one is teaching you love. What they're teaching you is the complete opposite, right? And that's why there's so much destruction. That's why there's so much hatred.
That's why, how do you feel that there's what do you think is a good way to find balance in that, you know, different practices or anything, whether spiritual or mental or just in general? Like, what do you think is beneficial for anyone who's feeling that imbalance?
Well, first of all, you need to understand that everything begins and ends with you, with the person. And so if everything begins and ends with me, then I have to be a little selfish, and I have to start looking for some type of higher power, some type of spirituality, whatever you believe in. Doesn't have to be what I believe in, right? Because I'm a high priestess in your religion doesn't mean that you have to believe what I believe in. But you must believe in something that carries you, that, you know, moves you forward and not backwards. You must have balance in life, and you cannot be excessive with anything. Once you're excessive, then, you know, then you're going to have a hard life. You're going to have a hard life. Because everything has to have a balance. I can't do too much of something and not enough of something else. I have to have a balance. I have to have my head on my shoulders, my feet on the ground. I have to be grounded. If I start something, I must finish it. And essential in life, I must have good behavior. I must treat others the way I want to be treated. Right? And that's very hard for a person like me, because I'm a person that I have a very forceful personality, right? And so I had to learn all of those things. I had to learn how to be kind, gentle, good, to myself first and to others.
Yeah, because if we're not doing it to ourselves, how can we have the capacity for anybody else? It's so true.
It's true, because, you know, I'm a person that, like, on a time I'll be like, you know? So it takes practice. It takes work. You can't just, you know, think that you're going to achieve anything unless you really work hard for it. In anything that you do. You know, nothing comes easy. You have to work for it, and you have to persevere, and your perception has to be good. If your perception is off, sweetheart, then everything is off.
So what is a good tool, ritual, or
well, one of the things I do is, like, I honor my ancestors. That's one of the things that I do. You know, once a week I have a little altar where I have my bóveda. It's called bóveda in Spanish, where I have, like, 7 glasses of water. I put my candle and my flowers to honor my eguns. Once a week I open the book of Allan Kardec. I do the prayer and I close it, and that's my connection with them. And once in a while I'll do a spiritual mass, a misa. It's called a misa, with my godchildren. And, you know, that's one way. The other way is that I pray. Prayer is essential to whoever you want to pray to, because prayer does work. It does absolutely work. And so that to me is essential. I must pray, because if I don't pray, then I'm lost. I'm lost. I don't have, like, my equilibrium that I need.
Mm-hmm. And it gives you clarity.
Right. It gives me clarity. It gives me hope. It gives me faith. Right. And so those are things you have to do to believe in something that keeps you going, that gives you that energy that you need, that push.
Finding that, like, that pathway.
And gratitude is a must. You must be grateful for everything that happens to you, good and bad. Because there's always going to be good things that happen to you and bad things. But what are you going to do when the bad things happen? Are you going to, like, be upset? Are you going to be, like, ungrateful? Are you going to say, well...
Are you going to do unto others what they've done to you? Or are you going to actually transmute it and, like, bring better, like, bring a better energy to not only yourself, but, like, how are you going to treat... There's something
because resentments is, like, the worst feature, the worst thing that you can have, because that's like living the same sentiment over and over
Well, it's like drinking poison and expecting it to kill the other person.
Exactly. You're killing yourself.
Yeah, because you're just filling yourself with all of this, like...
anger, resentment towards another
toxic
person.
Energy, and
toxic.
just and also just like the actual chemicals that get let off in our body, the cortisol, the high stress.
That's how you get sick.
Exactly.
That's how you get cancer. That's all those resentments work against you.
Yeah, because then it starts manifesting in your physical body. It's like when you're holding and you're harboring anything, whether it's suppression of emotion, whether that looks like anger, or whether that looks like deep sadness or grief or shame, when you harbor it for so long, there's it gets intertwined in our nervous system, and then our nervous system gets intertwined with our physical, and then I truly believe that that's where illnesses get birthed and like created in the pathway for them to exist, because we're prone. We have all different viruses, we have all different things within us. We have all different genetics, right? That can be activated or it cannot be. Like there's somebody that might in your family might have, everyone might be prone to diabetes, but one person gets it, one person doesn't.
Right.
It depends on their lifestyle. It's not necessarily.
And their head. Your Odi, that's what it's called in Yoruba. The Odi has two parts. This is the Odi and this is the Chinipago. If these two parts of your head are not together, balanced, the person feels like crap. Person has no energy. Person is depressed, right? Person might do things they wouldn't normally do when they're together.
When that's off, what do you recommend people to do?
A rogation of their head, right, with coconut, because that brings it together, or a bath, a spiritual white bath, so that their aura is clean and they become balanced again.
Yeah.
Because, depression is real. And a lot of people suffer from depression.
It's like, are you alive in 2021 if you're not experiencing some form of
does.
depression or anxiety?
At one time or another, we have anxiety, we have depression. We have to deal with it. You know, and I don't think, some people definitely need medication because they're psychotic, but there are some people that benefit from doing, like the chakra cleaning and the Reiki, acupuncture. I definitely believe in all of those methods of getting rid of negative energy. Right?
Absolutely. And everybody, it looks different, it feels different for everybody. And whatever resonates for you, you might get your foot in the door by going into a yoga class or like a meditation class and like feeling like, wow, like, this resonates. Let me dive deeper, or whatever the case is.
Exercise and whatever raises your endorphins, instead of like taking a pill, let's say.
Yeah.
Going to do some damage, some side effect
at some point. And it's like whether or not now, potentially in the future. And it's like the same thing when it comes to like, I was just having a conversation with somebody the other day, maybe yesterday. Anyway, it was like, I was saying, when you take an Advil, you're not actually treating the root problem. You're just cutting yourself off your brain receptors to not feel pain, but the pain still exists. There's still an issue. Yeah. So if you're having a headache, rather than looking at it like, oh my goodness, I have a headache, like instead of being mad about it, like maybe ask yourself, like, why would I have a headache? Did I have enough water? Am I taking magnesium? Do I have enough nutrients? Like my body, our body isn't meant to like piss us off. It's meant to tell us like, hey, I'm depleted in something, maybe pay attention to me. And once we give ourselves like that attention in meditation or our spiritual practices or prayer, whatever you call it,
or Reiki,
taking that time.
I totally, I'm a Reiki practitioner, so Reiki is such a wonderful modality to use when we have headaches, when we don't feel good, when we're sick,
Absolutely.
because we can just drop that energy.
I'm a Reiki practitioner as well. I'm actually about to receive my master's in it. I need to write the book for it, and so I'm excited about that because I get to pass that on. And something that I'm looking forward to doing is like creating a scholarship for those who can't afford,
Right, 'cause it's
and it's like
expensive.
and putting it into those areas that need it the most. You know, that's the whole reason I got the masters is for that. Like I would have just stayed with the two, but I got the masters because I want to give it to people who can't afford it,
Yeah,
and
it's
like and
expensive.
because it shouldn't be like I feel like in certain aspects like there should be some kind of understanding of like, you know, nothing is for free, and that's understood.
Exactly.
But there can be an exchange. So like the scholarship that I'm going to provide that is, which I do with all of my other services, is like if you don't have the financial means, like what do you have the means for? Like, are you really good at braiding hair? Are you really good at
Like
making
doing it, yeah,
food?
like
Are you really good at making like random packages, or do you do something else in the business or whatever it is? Like either whether you can use that service on me or on somebody I know, and then kind of give that balance and that equivalent exchange, so that something, because you know something that I learned early on, not early on, I still kick myself in the butt for this one, but like you can't just give things for free because you get
Never.
sick.
No, you
And
have to.
like
You can't. You have to exchange energy for energy, sweetheart. You just can't do something for nothing.
yeah, and that's something that you've told me many times. Other elders have told me many times. I'm like, why am I sick? Why do I feel so drained? It's like, are you charging? Are you doing? Are you getting an exchange? Where's your ache? And then I'm like, you know, because it's not only for me, but for my ancestors and for, you know, my elevated loved ones, and you know, spirit guides that help me to do the different things and services that I have done for people. So it's like creating that balance, but you know, it's interesting. It's interesting how it fits with different people, but definitely with Reiki, it's like yesterday I actually blew out my ear because I have gauges in my ear, so like it's big, so my ear is really raw right now. I woke up in so much pain, like I felt the throbbing that was happening in my ear. It woke me out of my sleep, and I was like, wait, I could give myself Reiki. Like,
Well,
and,
I have, I have a lot of clients that'll bring me their children or people that are sick, and there's something in Spanish called santiguar. Santiguar means like una sanación, where I just take the person, I pray over them, and I put my hands over them, maybe
The
blow
laying of the
tobacco on
hands.
them, and and it, for some reason, it works because the person feels better. And so a lot of these people are don't have like medical insurance, but I always send everybody to the doctor. Always.
yeah,
You have to go to the doctor. That's a must.
and and it's good to have that balance of like of both worlds, you know, and also like you were saying, you know, every religion, every tradition has some form of laying of the hands,
Yes.
whether that's Reiki, whether
Or
that's
it's a curandera.
and any and every tradition, it's called something different, and you know, you can
Listen,
tune into that.
when I went through the process of breast cancer 10 years ago, it was 10 years ago, almost 11. I had a workshop that I went to. That's where I learned my Reiki. I don't know, West 4th Street in Manhattan, and everyone worked on me twice a month. All the groups, and that saved my life. I really think because to me, the chemo was worse than anything,
Yeah,
and it totally like saved my life. I feel.
yeah,
If it wasn't
because
for
that was breathing life into the chemo, was taking it.
The chemo was killing me, and this Reiki was like, and all these people. There was like maybe 25 people that were, each one of them was like helping me.
That's beautiful.
It was amazing.
Something that
I
I
will never
seen.
forget that. I'm so grateful for that, and I'm still here. Thank God. So
Bless, you're needed.
yeah,
You're
so
needed. You're a beacon in the community, and you are so needed. So thank, you know, and
it
creator.
really works to me. It really works.
It's interesting because it's like it's on a scientific level. It's now getting recognized and is also being integrated into hospitals where
should be,
people
as it
are
should be.
allowed to kind of go into. Well, I mean, I don't know now with the restrictions of everything,
Yeah.
but at points there was a few different people who were practicing Reiki that were allowed to go into medical rooms and surgeries. So while somebody was under anesthetic, like they were getting Reiki beams into them for that same kind of thought, like, you know, while they're like out, they're still getting life put into them. And in general, I think that it's something I had read an article a few years ago. So hopefully it's continuing and it's progressing because that's
Yeah.
integrative medicine,
So
alternative
wonderful.
medicines.
Yeah, the East has a wonderful modalities and ways of healing themselves that that are wonderful.
Yeah.
With herbs. Same thing with the herbs. All the herbs that are available to us. That people just walk by them every single day and don't even know the properties of these herbs. There is like a lettuce that is like more potent than any. I forgot the. It's called a lettuce. It's like it looks like a lettuce, but you boil it and you make it into a paste, and it's like a. It's for pain. It's for pain, and so people don't use it because they don't know what it is. Better than using the aspirin.
Like the plantain leaf, the one that
No,
you
no,
get on the side of the
no.
street.
It looks like a lettuce. I forgot the name of it, but it's a lettuce, and it's used for that. A lot of people, Indians, American Indians, use it for pain.
Yeah.
Instead of using, Motrin or whatever.
Yeah.
Or even like narcotics. They use that. And so, like my husband being a Babalawo, he has like the book of all the herbs for Osain. Osain is the Orisha for the herbs. And he knows what every herb is used for medically and also for whatever, you need to cleanse or whatever. But there's so many herbs that are wonderful and powerful. And trees. Trees.
I have this fond, like, I love ginkgo biloba trees.
Oh, yeah,
I love them. They are so, like, I love the shape of the leaves. I love when they fall and they spin and, like, how they turn yellow. I love everything about ginkgos. Like, and something that I learned this year was that ginkgo biloba and Japanese oleander were the two plants that actually the first two plants that came back and survived the bombing in Japan.
Look at that.
And
Hiroshima.
So
amazing.
the resilience that
Yes,
are within those plants, so even tuning into those plants at any point, not only ginkgo biloba is really great for your memory, but it has that resilience to keep moving forward. And the same with white Japanese oleander.
Yeah.
But I don't just have that unless you like turn to somebody who's like a herbalist, because I have a homeopathic version because it could be toxic and poison. But ginkgo biloba a lot more safe, definitely. Definitely you can have that as a tea. A lot more mild, but still powerful.
Yeah, there is a tree called the ceiba, which it's grown in tropical countries like in Africa, in Cuba, in Puerto Rico. My husband has a small version of it here. You can't do your crowning without going in front of that tree, or any kind of religious ceremony that has to do with the Yoruba tradition. And it's an amazing tree. It's beautiful. It's big. It's shrunk.
It's the one that's really hard, right?
Yes,
it's the one that
really hard.
they make necklaces and like the little from the
and they make
seed.
the little ones. It's big. It's huge. It's gorgeous. But you can't grow that here because it's not tropical. And so when the enslaved people came from Africa, it's amazing that Africa and Cuba and the Caribbean are like on the same side of the equator. Like Africa's all the way over there, but the Caribbean has all the same things that Africa has, right? It has the ceiba, it has the platanos, it has all the same.
And the same thing for South America too.
So that's the slaves were able to like continue the religion because they had the same things.
Yeah.
Whereas the ones that came here lost all their roots.
Yeah.
Because they were separated as family
on
units.
a different side of the equator, different
and
climate.
different master, different religion, different. I mean, they had to they had to convert to Catholicism to stay as a family unit, which they did, but they hid their deities in those saints, and everything got synchronized together for centuries, and that's why they call it Santeria, right? But it's a shame because like the ones that came here lost all their identity. Of course, Jesus kept them going. Amazingly, because it was hard. Can you imagine like living a life where you touch ground and you immediately lose your family? You lose everybody. You have to do this horrible work, right? Somebody telling you what to do day and night, hurting you, abusing you, and then you have to learn the master's religion, and you do.
And the resilience in still finding the way to still honor your traditions and how
it was
Santeria
hard for them.
was
The
born.
ones that came here though, they loved their tradition.
Speaking and being open in your religion and practice, I would like to ask you like a question for the people who misunderstand. I feel like Santeria gets such a stigma.
Oh yeah, it
you
has a
know,
very bad name,
and
people think
people make songs about it, jokes about it, like movies and all these different things. And
because they don't know. It's a very secretive religion. Because there's certain things you can't divulge. But if you don't know something, you shouldn't assume, and you shouldn't say, that it's demonic and this and that if you don't understand it. But that's okay, because I don't take offense to that. I don't. I think that people are ignorant, and that's okay. They can believe whatever they believe. I know what it is, and I truly am in love with this religion because it's based on nature. It's based on the 4 elements of this planet. And so, there's only one creator in this religion, and that's all Dumani. So that's an energy. It's also an energy. That's what it's based on. And it has 16 commandments instead of 10. And the most important thing about it is that you must have good behavior, right? You have to have good behavior. If you like El Agua has the best behavior. That's why all the Orishas walk with him, because he has the best behavior at all the Orishas.
Something that I really love about Santeria or the Yoruba tradition is that like there is these stories that you can relate to.
Yeah, because they make mistakes just like we did.
Exactly. So it feels very like understanding. Like you're like, I remember hearing different stories and I'm like, wow, that's something that I've experienced or went through or I know somebody who
that's
did.
That's why, because when you become a child of this Orisha, right? They don't want you to make the same mistakes they made. It's a misunderstanding sometimes. Like, I'm a daughter of Chango. Chango doesn't want me to be like he was. He wants to be completely opposite. He wants me to be humble, right? Person that's, from my home, that doesn't drink, that's not a partier like he was, right? He wants me to be like someone good and humble, someone with a good heart and a good soul. And it's about, teaching my godchildren the correct way and teaching them how to be that way as well. It's like you have to pass down the religion from person to person, otherwise the religion will die. And some people, unfortunately, take this religion to make money, and they don't know what they're doing. That's why it gets a bad rep. They don't have the right information, or they just want to make money, and so.
How do you feel that, the best way to keep integrity with not only what you're particularly doing in the religion that you are in, but just in general for any spiritual practitioner that's practicing something? What do you think is a good way to?
I think they have to be true to thyself and to the religion that they're in and to the people that they're working for. Because you have to be honest. Honey, you have to be honest, because guess who's watching? Whoever you're practicing for, whoever the deity you
can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to spirit.
No,
you can't lie to spirit. You can lie to other people too, but you can't lie to spirit.
The spirit is watching, and so whatever.
That's one of my favorite things to say.
It's the truth. It's the truth. So, you can lie to everybody, but you can't lie to God. So, that's how I feel. I mean, as long as you do the right thing for the right reason, you're gonna be okay. So,
how do you feel that the religion has? Is there any adaptations that you've noticed over the years throughout, like, more trends of like social media coming out or like more people?
There's a lot of things that shouldn't be put out there that are disrespectful, because there's certain ceremonies that you cannot show on social media. I believe that the religion is becoming more modern, which is good, because you do have to teach your godchildren. You can't just keep it to yourself. If I'm a godmother, I have to teach you. I can't be in secret. You can't. I have to teach you what I know. And some godparents don't do that. They just tell you a little bit, and then they shut it down, which I think is not good. I think I have to teach you what I know, right? When you go through the channels, because there's channels that you got to go through. But I think that it's becoming more modern, and that's a good thing. Because of information, because of the internet, and all people communicating with other people from the religion from all over the world. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, that's great, because it's like, I feel like anything in life, finding the balance of how to maintain the core integrity of tradition, but then also adapt to and evolve into the different things because the world evolves and we can't keep everything
you can't
the
stay
same.
like in the olden time. No.
Yeah.
You have to evolve. Like
there's different things, or else it doesn't align anymore because then it's not
but
even
as long as you
tangible.
you said the key word, integrity. Integrity means I'm doing the right thing for the right reason and when no one is watching me. That is integrity to me. That's integrity, that I'm true to my word. I'm not going to tell you something today and then behind your back I'm going to do something else. No, I'm true to my word. That is respect.
That's something. If y'all have ever gotten a reading and or plan on getting a reading with Carmen, that's something you will know very quickly. If you want to be coddled, you have came to the wrong place. She will tell you exactly how it is. And like I know I live for it. Like I remember the first time I got a reading from you, I was 17. I was like, okay, you know, I remember getting there and I didn't tell because Carmen used to work with my mother, and I remember not telling my mother because I knew I was getting a reading from you on Friday, so I didn't tell my mother that I just experienced a breakup because I was like, I don't want my mom to go to work, say I've experienced a breakup, now you know this information, so like, you know what I'm saying, because I didn't know you yet. Like I knew you, but I didn't get a reading from you yet. So, and I was still very like trying to understand, you know, my path in the spiritual way and like what I believe, what I don't believe. So I go in to get this reading and like within 0.5 seconds, like of the reading undergoing, like boom, Carmen's like, so you're gonna break up with somebody or you already did. Boom, 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 tells me why, like all the different things that are going on, everything that's happening. And I'm just like, like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, all right, you know, but waste no time. And, you know, the different things that I was suffering with in silence, you know, that nobody knew about, you know, it was a good way to be called out with other things too. It's like there's the tangible things that are like, okay, like I believe this, right? That, and then after that, it is like the different things that are said that you had said. I remember like that I've never told anybody, or things that I was experiencing, depression, feelings like sadness that I was experiencing. And you were like just calling it out and doing so. I needed that. Like I needed somebody to see the actual pain that I was going through rather than the position that I've always kind of been in my life as like the emotional support system for everyone around me. So like, I needed that emotional support by being seen in my sadness and being like, you're going through it, but you're gonna be okay. But you needed to be like kind of called out on that. And like with that, I feel like it's so important with readings. Like at a bare minimum, I get quarterly readings from Carmen. Like a bare minimum is I get quarterly. But I like to keep it quarterly just so it's like not too much, because you also don't want to go to your reader. Like I read cards, y'all know that, but like every person who does something, you need to go to someone. That's integrity to me. Like if the first thing I asked my therapist, I was like, "Do you go to therapy?" And she was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, now we can talk." Like, because if you didn't, like, what are we doing here? Like, what you know what I'm saying? If you do Reiki, you should get Reiki. If you believe and you believe in your craft, like I'm sure you get cleansings and things from other people, because we need that medicine where it's not just coming from us, because it needs
another energy. We need another energy
and that support. Where it's like, we can't do it all on our own. We can be amazing at so many things. Like, I know I'm very multifaceted. Yeah, we need
other people.
You're incredibly multifaceted. Yeah. Like, every time I think I know things that you do, you tell me, like, by the way, so I'm certified in this, that, and there. And I'm like, I can resonate because I'm certified, like, a ridiculous amount of things that nobody knows as well. And I'm just like, oh, word. Like, oh, that's awesome. Like, what are you not certified in, Carmen? Like, that's great. You know? And it's so interesting to learn that, like, and to learn how, and not feel guilt, shame, or like ego about like needing that help and going and getting it. And then especially like for those people that are struggling or may have not ever gotten a reading, I feel like right now, especially right now, with the amount of people that are doing readings, the amount of people that are doing things, it's not to like invalidate the work that people are doing. It's more so there's different medicine for each people, you know, and like different strokes for different folks, and like everybody has different things. And with people, like there is a lot of the love and light solely kind of being pushed, where it's like they're not getting called out on things because it's like maybe that reader feels fear that they would hurt them, you know, or and which I've also experienced as a reader, like going through the process of like, no, I can't sugarcoat this. If spirit gave it to me like that, it needs to come out like that. Yeah. And I feel like, you know, having someone like an OG like you that has been doing this for your whole life and like has been taught down and passed down, it's like there's a balance. Like you will kind of like call somebody out, like not kind of, you will call somebody out, but then you also be like, well, what you doing? Empower yourself. This is how you do it. Okay, you gotta go do this and take this, and not only do that and take that, but you gotta
the whole idea of like reading somebody is not just to read; it's to help them. Mm-hmm. It's to help them themselves, right? That's the whole idea. Okay, I'm gonna read you. I'm gonna tell you some stuff I see, and tell me if I'm right. And if I am right, then you need to do some stuff, right? You got to change the situation. And the only person that can do that is you. Yep. But you got to do it.
But you got to do it, and you got to do it with your whole heart. Like, if you're over here, like, okay, here, like, say you make a bath and you hand the bath to them, but then when they're doing the bath, they're, like, thinking about everything else, and they're not putting there. You got to be present. But whatever it is that you're working with and you're doing, like, you got to be present and, like, really, you know, offer yourself to your spirit, to your higher self, to your ancestors, to, you know, to the above, which whatever it is in what you believe in, the higher power, and be humbled enough. Like I feel like so many people have to get broken down so bad in order to get. So many people
are so like unapproachable and so not wanting to get help. That to me is the most hurtful thing for me. You know, I have women that I've tried to help and can't help them. As much as I've tried, as much as I sat with them, as much as I've told them, you know, you could lead the horse to the water, right? But is he going to drink? That's up to the horse, right? So and it hurts me sometimes because I want to help so badly, but then, you know, the person will just do the opposite thing that I'll tell them to do.
It's a cyclical behavior,
and it's a bad outcome.
It's a cyclical behavior of the ancestral trauma and nonetheless their own trauma that they've endured in this lifetime.
And they think that they're not worthy.
And the societal pressure too, because that doesn't help if you're listening to anything.
Like you know, some people are professional people that you would never think that they would like adhere to like abuse by a man, let's say. I mean, terrible abuse, and lie to me, and I'm like, you can't lie to me. I know what's going on. You know,
there's been time I remember specifically. I had a friend when I was like probably like 17, 18 when I was like first starting to get readings for real. And really taking everything. I always say, like, you know, I've been born spiritual. Like, my whole life has been spiritual. I was actually running away from it. And then when I was 17, I took it seriously. Like, you know, after my father passed, I was like, all right, well, like, I need to do it now. Like, you know, I can't escape it. And around that time, because I was really taking it seriously, I was in Barnes & Noble every other day, like, reading all different books and, like, contacting people, learning from different people around me as much as I could. People would come to me and be like, hey, what can I do? Where can I go? I'm like, oh, I'm just learning. Like, go here. Like, send them to you. Yeah. And one of the people that I sent to you, she was like in like a thick of addiction. And she had came to you and she told me what you said when you left. And she's like, yeah, so I went in and da-da-da. She's like, she slapped on the table and she said, why are you lying to me? You're high right now, like you've been and this, that, and the third, and I was like so jarred. No one has ever called me out in that way, and it's like, but how do you feel about it? She's like, I needed to be called out like that. Like everybody tiptoes around like how they want to say things to me. I needed somebody to be like, you're lying, not only to me but to yourself.
That is the biggest problem when someone lies, because you can lie, but you can't lie to yourself.
You can't.
Because at the end of the day, it's about you, not about nobody else. You can lie to this one, but when you lie to yourself, That's the biggest.
And then you can't trust anybody who lies to themselves because they are going to lie to you. It's not
And they
they're
can
going
be like
to.
a sociopath, like no remorse. They do shit and they blame it on this.
And they won't even realize it because at that point there's so much of a cushion of
they're
coping.
so like messed up.
It's removed from source too. I truly believe that many of these mental, physical disorders that happen, or illnesses that happen that like manifest throughout life are because we are so removed from source.
Yes.
Like there is no connection with taking your shoes off and going outside. There is no like giving offerings to the tree, acknowledging the lands that is ingrained in you. Like, I mean, you're fortunate if you have that kind of mentorship, whether in your family or your support system in your life. But usually, like in my personal experience, I didn't get a lot of that, especially feeding my spiritual, nourishing my spirit until I was older. But I had to want it too. Like, I feel like some people, especially with the instant gratification, you order something on Amazon, you get it the next day, all these different things that happen, people even coming into their spirituality and walking and like starting to get excited about going their spiritual path, expect to have everything instantly. Like I'm going to find somebody I resonate. I'm going to learn this religion. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Now I'm going to teach it. Now I'm going to make money. Now I'm going to do this. And it's just like, you have to slow down. Yeah. You have to slow down and stay humble. And it's like, I find that, especially in my generation, the younger generations, it's like, I see that so commonly.
It's like that in all generations. People want things yesterday. They want everything yesterday. They want everybody to conform to what they want them to do. It's not,
And rather than like villainizing it, I think it's important to realize like that's like, how could you not? We were groomed for that behavior. We were groomed for that behavior to think that we need everything instantaneously because that's what society progressed into throughout all of the different things. Instant messenger, instant this, instant that. We get it instantaneously. So now it's like there's no knocking on people's door like we were talking about earlier. Like
but like in my generation, it was that our parents weren't available. They were working. My parents worked in a factory. They were never with us. It was just me and my brother alone, right, watching television or whatever. So there was no closeness there with the family unit. Just me and my brother. So where was like we used to watch, what was it, like Leave It to Beaver and whatever, My Three Sons. There was like a we used to watch these people like a family. They were all, where was our family? Our family was too busy working in the factory. We didn't have that closeness, So we kind of like, and then the 70s and the, 60s, 70s came along, the Vietnam War came along, drugs came along. So everybody was doing their own thing, you know what I mean? And it was like a rebellion that took place. Boom. Kids were like hippies and nobody wanted to be with their families. So that's where all that took place, right? Because of people having to work and not being able to be with their children. It's very important to be with your children. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to quit your job right now, but it's the time that you spend with them. The quality time that you spend with your children.
And the presence when you're with them.
The presence. And be present when you're with them. Not on your phone, on the computer, talking to this one, talking. You need to spend quality time with your children. Because that's important. That makes them feel important. Makes them feel that they're loved. Because when a person doesn't feel love with their children, they have traumas. And they have traumas having other relationships with people. Because that, there's like a blockage.
With friendships and especially relationships.
Relationships are hard, girl. I listen to 1,000 people
I was
a
gonna
day.
say, I'm like, I can't even imagine. Like, even prior to us coming in here, there was a person already there. Like, I was
waiting
like,
for me.
this early? That's wild. Like, that's crazy, So it's like,
it's doable.
Yeah.
It's doable, It's doable. As long as we help each other.
What was the catalyst for you to decide, like, okay, I'm done working this regular job. I'm going to open up this botanica and I'm going to live my life's purpose.
Well, first of all, I had gone to Cuba, right? And I had a reading with my deity. They brought him down. And I asked him, could I retire? And he said, absolutely. What are you waiting for? So I totally believed in him. And I said, that's it. I'm going to go out. I could have went out when I had my surgery. Like 3-4 years before, I think it was. And I didn't. I decided to stick it out. But I had wanted a botanica for years. Because I've been doing this for 40 years. I've been reading cards for 40 years.
But what within you?
Because I just didn't want to work for anyone anymore. I was done. I did enough. And I wanted to work for myself. And I had the Botanica. I just the Botanica didn't have me because I was stuck working where I was working at. And so it was time for me to go. And it was the best decision I ever made.
And cycling back to kind of like the topic of this podcast is like
believing. I believed in Chango completely. He said leave, I left.
And you believed in yourself.
And I believed in myself. You know, and so whenever there's a change that we want to make, we got to go for it. We can't be like scared or wishy-washy about. We got to go with it and say, yes, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do it, and no matter what, it's going to work. Because if I'm going to be like scared, then why do it? Right?
Well, even if you are scared, you could still do it. You just got to full-heartedly go for it.
Yeah, but I can't be, I have to be someone that's positive about it and say, I know this is going to work, you know? That's how I am. Like, when I say something's going to work, it's going to work. You don't have to change my energy about stuff and say, I'm completely with this, I'm down with it, and it's going to happen, you know?
Well, I believe that comes also from that belief, because if somebody doesn't believe in themselves, then they can get fearful, or if they don't believe in spirit.
I'm from East New York. I grew up in East New York. I sold my house in 2000 and moved to a place I didn't know anyone in Staten Island. No one, nada. And I had faith. That when I saw the first house I saw that I moved into, I said, I'm going to live in that house and I'm going to make something in my life. And I totally believed that.
And that was that belief.
And that was 21 years ago. And I'm still here. I don't know. I just go. When I feel that energy that tells me you got to do something, I go with that. I go with my sixth sense. I go with my intuition. That's what makes me a good medium. What makes me a good medium is my intuition and that I can see everything.
And it's the trust. It's that trust that you
in my
have.
intuition.
And that's something that I wanna also like shine light on, because it's beautiful that you have that, because you can also empower and embody that. Well, you do embody that, and then you can empower other people who say, like, you know, we live in a society where, you know, and a lot of upbringings where people are severed from their source and then also from their intuition, and they have trust issues not only with other people, but they have it with themselves, because they're like, oh, wow, if I would have listened to myself, I did listen to myself, but I listened to my mind and not my intuition.
You have to listen to your intuition always. I had a cousin who was killed at 26 for not listening to his intuition. If he would have listened to his intuition, he would have been alive right now, but he did not. He was at home with his wife and his child. His friend came over, and he had just taken a shower, he just ate, and his friend was like, come on, let's go. And he was like, no, dude, I don't want to go. But his friend was like for an hour insisting for him to go, and he went. And he went somewhere, but he got killed that same day. So intuition is there. To me, it's everything.
How do you feel like is the best way to listen to, trust, and empower your belief system and your intuition with yourself?
Because I feel that there's like something that tells you, like there's like a little in here, right? In your abdomen, in the abdominal area. It kind of like is like that flight or fight feeling that you get that comes from way back when, right? From the caveman era. And if you don't listen to that, there's something's going to happen to you. You have to listen to that. Totally. And it comes on suddenly, and it goes away quickly. But you have to be in tune with that, because that will save your life.
How can you get in tune with that?
Because you're going to feel it, and you can't just ignore it, because sometimes we ignore it. We're like, all right, I'll do it later, or no. You got to listen to that little voice that tells you what's good for you.
So kind of separate your mind from it.
Even with people.
Even it could just be like a situation where you just have a feeling. Like, to be honest, now I'm at the point with my intuition, I'll be on Instagram. If I have a feeling from a person, hidden, deleted, unfollowed,
It's
like blocked,
with,
you know.
with clients. Like, I've had this thing where I don't really want to read this person. And for some reason, you know, and it's turned out very bad.
Yeah.
So, but you live and you learn.
So feeling that little and then doing something about it, you heard? It's important. It's important. You know, that's and learn whatever it is that you believe in. Do whatever you can to fuel the fire, you know, like bring the kindling, give the starter to, you know, fan the flames of your fire and your passions of whatever can bring you into for you to believe believe, whatever it is that you believe, whether that's watching documentaries, praying, going into nature, watching beautiful things unfold. You can just literally sit in nature and watch how animals and insects interact, and you can believe in something. You know, you can listen to the way, you could look at children and see the way they interact and believe in something. You can listen to an elder that lived a long life and listen to things that they said and believe in something. So, you know, find whatever it is that can help you to strengthen your belief system so that you can strengthen that connection with yourself, which innately is going to help you to strengthen your connection with source. Because, you know, we're all needed. We're needed in different ways. We all have roles in the world.
We all have a part to play in this universe.
And it's up to each of us to figure that out. You know, there's people that can help. There's people that, you know, go into you and speaking on things. Like, you've been telling me since I'm 17, you're like, you and me reading. Like, you read. You do this. And I'm like, I don't know. And, like, that was a big thing that I struggled with, was, like, the belief in myself. You've been telling me since I'm on Sunday, like, slapping the table, like, why don't you believe in yours? Are you serious? You see everything before it happens. You look at this table right now. You already know what this reading's about. And I'm like, you're right. I know. I need to hear it from outside of myself. And why? Because I didn't trust myself. And why? Because many different traumas and different things that I experienced in my life, you know? So it's like.
But, you know, out of something bad, something good always comes out of it. If you see it that way.
Because now, like, I recognize it, and I'm at this point in this this pinnacle turning point in my life that I've been for the past few years of, like, I actually believe me now. I believe myself. Like, so it's like I'll go to things and people and places for confirmation, but not for the answer. You know, and it's different, like, when you go to yourself for the answer and then you go to other people for confirmation of your answer, then going to someone for the answer, because then you don't trust yourself. Exactly. You trust someone else outside of you, you know. So it's interesting for sure, without a doubt. So, like, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful progression and ascension of self. And I feel like, you know, the trauma I experienced was to liberate myself from that, break the ancestral ties, change the genetics and the code in my being, and also, help to show others to do the same. Because everyone comes from different spectrums. You know, you had people that you're from descendants of people in this lineage of reading cards. I very well could have been. I have no idea, though, because everybody done died by the time I was, like, even able to have these conversations.
With the Puerto Rican culture, like, they don't tell, like, my mother never told me that her father was spiritualist, that her grandmother was. You know, I found out later on, like, when something happened to me spiritually. And then, of course, when I came into the religion, that, you know, when I did the Mano de Rula, they told me everything, they confirmed everything that was told to me before. And it was amazing, because everything they told me was true. And I was like, all right. Because then I asked my mother, I said, was your grandmother a card reader? She said, yeah, that's what she did for a living. I said, how come you never told me that before? Oh, because, you know how they are. Like, they don't. And I remember her aunt used to have the Allan Kardec book, and she would take it out when her son would go to church on Sunday. She would take it out and read it and put it away. And I would ask her, Tia Consuelo, what is that? And she would never answer me, because everything was like a secret, you know, back in the day. Yeah, everything was a secret and stuff like that. And I would go to with my mother's mother. I would go to centros when I was little, and that's Mesa Blanca. And you had to know someone to go into this place, and you had to say a secret code at the door. Knock on the door, and then you would go in, and my grandmother would be so shy. She didn't want the attention, but she wanted to go to see what everybody else was doing. She would sit in the back, and they would always call her to the table, Señora, ven acá. And she would go up there all red in the face, and they would start telling her about her kids and this and that. And for some reason, they would talk to me. I was little, though. I don't remember that much about what they said to me. But I remember, like, the first time I seen spirits, I was a little girl. I was like 4 and a half. It was when my sister passed away. And they wouldn't let, Puerto Rican people are crazy. They have the funeral for 3 days, right? The wake for 3 days. And I'm in the lobby, sitting there alone. They closed the door, and everybody was in there with the casket, and the baby laying in state. And then after they buried her, I was like, I'm going to go in that funeral parlor and see what the hell went on in that room. Because something went on in the room, and I was like a little girl, so I wanted to know. And when I walked in, I was like, when I started school, I was 5. I went in. It was a whole family of people that died. It was a mother and children. They ate a bad yuca, because yuca can go bad, and you can poison yourself. And I walked in, instead of seeing the people in the casket, I saw them on top of the casket, like it was like smoke, but it would look like a person. And I went home and told my grandmother. She was like, "Don't tell anybody what you saw, especially your mother," because my mother's a very hysterical woman who's very scared of all of this. Mm-hmm. So I said, "All right, I won't tell her." And I never told her. I never told anyone. And then later on, like when I was 26, is when I came in contact with this spiritual realm.
Yeah. It's really interesting how that happens, and like how we will remember, like you're so young, but you have that vivid memory.
Yeah, I remember that because it was to me, it was like they were alive. They weren't dead. They looked like you and me, but I didn't know what I was. I thought it was just the people that were there.
Yep. I actually, one of the first predominant memories I have of seeing a spirit was at funeral homes as well, like especially like I remember there was a point in my life where like everybody was dying. It was like really intense. It was just like everybody, like it was like family friends, everybody was just like really intense. I was young, like and then just continued for a really long time, but there was a specific time where it was like my uncle, my grandmother, my grandfather. It was like a lot of people on my father's side, and around, and my cousin on my mother's side, and there was a lot of people. I remember being at the wake and I seen something. I remember talking to my mother. I remember talking to my mother when I was younger, and I'm grateful. My mother is also a person who could be a little bit afraid of different things, but she believes. She believes, and I'm really grateful. My mother had told me, you know, something that was said to me that's like kind of that's like a personal thing in which I won't get into on here, but essentially like she was told that I was going to do this. I was going to see this. Like, you know, and in a very specific way, very early on in my life. But I didn't know, so I just like thought that this is something that everybody enjoys, you know. And I had like a bunch of imaginary friends, but I'm sure they were spirits, you know. And like all these different things. And my mother had told me when I was 7, like, yeah, no, you can do this. Like, this is something that's real. But you can't really tell people because they're going to think you're crazy.
Exactly.
And that's like, so then you feel like, okay, like now I have this like superpower that I can't tell anybody about, and I also don't understand. I'm also low-key scared because I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, oh, you can't see this? Like, what do you mean? Like, there's like someone right there, you know? And, it's just, and every house I lived in was haunted, so it's just like even more so. People would feel everything, and I'm like, I see them, they're right there. Like, I gotta go, you know? So it's interesting how everyone develops into their different stuff. And then how many years I spent running away from that. When I was like a teenager, I was running away from that full blown.
It's hard when you're a teenager.
I had nobody to necessarily guide me at that point.
No, it's hard as a teenager to see that.
I was like, all right, disassociate, party, drink, smoke, do whatever. Yeah, so it's definitely, you know, important and beautiful to learn about the different ways to believe in yourself and the different things to do in that way. So I want to say thank you so much for coming on to here.
Welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. And yeah, I will put you know, if you're open to it, I'll put your information for anybody who wants to go check you out.
And make an appointment and come and see me. I'm open. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so
much for having me on.
And yeah, so we got into here. I'm gonna read this. You can go to whatever or if you want.
Oh, I have to.
Yeah,
okay.
You can. Okay, good. No worries. I want you to be binded to the chair. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to read a last of the. I have a Peace of Mind book, which is a daily meditation for easing stress, and today is the 25th of August, right? Okay, let's see what the message has for us today. I still find each day too short for all thoughts I want to think, all of the walks I want to take, all of the books I want to read, all of the friends I want to see. By John Burroughs. The yin and the yang life force is central to Eastern philosophy. This philosophy explains the yin as the phase response the phase response, while the yang is the phase of activity. All life emerges from two harmonious syntheses. As these two life forces, you need both moments to reflect on your actions, to have purpose in the meaning, as well as the moments of action so your thoughts can take form. Western philosophy, on the other hand, is purposes over choice, action or response. Americans prefer yang over yin by accepting the Puritan work ethic, burning the candle at both ends, equating into a successful day with the number of tasks completed. Yet without balance, yin and yang, you will bounce from extreme to another, going from times of overworking period of exhaustion and collapse to restoring balance in your life. Ask, where in my life do I do too much? As a result of what things are lacking from my life. Imagine your yin and yang on opposite sides of the scale. Bring them to a balance and what you can add or take away from each side. Well, what can you add or take away from each side? Then create more balanced pattern of the yin and yang in your life. Today, I'll flow. This is the affirmation. Today, I'll flow harmonious from my vocal, outgoing, active yang to my quiet, peaceful, and reflective yin. I love this book. You know, if anybody needs to hear that, it's on here at Duality because it's everything that we do here. So thank you so much for tuning in and, you know, different things that we could help believe in ourselves. I wasn't really sure what happened, but I believe Carmen had to go. So, yeah, I'm just going to kind of bring balance into the end of the podcast. I'm going to pull a self-care card for anybody who's listening. What it is that is going to help you right now tune into your belief system, believing in yourself and believing in whatever it is that you feel you need to do in this time of your life. Rest, 43. And spending time with friends. So it shows in both of these is like resting, giving yourself like that time to give your yin like a lot of attention. I highly recommend looking up like yin. What does that mean? It's going to be feminine, introspective, reflective, things of that sort and that nature. So really taking that time to just go inward and then also like balancing it with being outside with your yang, talking to people, but then you can also still have that balance between both and doing both. So you could be introspective talking about your yin in a yang way with your, you know, people. So doing that, you know, it's kind of what we do here. It is what we do here. So thank you so much for tuning in, sending so much love to each and every one of you. May this podcast receive to you or you receive it whenever you are supposed to. And thank you to Carmen for coming through and giving her insight and input in a good way. I will see you guys next week, same time, same place. Have a great day.